Bulletproof Radio, a state of high performance.
You focus mostly in your book on, as you'd expect, because you're a religious leader, but you're focusing on this idea of love that looks outward, the agape. What is the sensation of that love? Like, okay, when you love someone romantically, like there's a feeling in your heart and all that stuff. But when you're at your highest state of agape, what does it feel like?
It's ironic. One of the passages in the New Testament that the love passage from Paul, though I speak with the tongues of men and of angels and have not love, I'm a noisy gong, a clanging cymbal. I remember being in high school. That was like in our book of great poetry. And, it was there along with Shakespearean sonnets and stuff. And there was 1 Corinthians 13. Well, the interesting thing about that, and I talk about it in the book, is that, Paul actually wrote it. He wasn't thinking about a wedding, although it applies to relationships. He was dealing with a church that was dividing itself into factions. And some of those were sociological. The rich were putting down the poor. It was a church that was in a mess, and it was operating out of self-interest. And the principle of love, he says at one point, now I will show you a still more excellent way. And then he goes into the what is the poetry of love, that he sees love as the unselfish way that makes human community possible. Because apart from the unselfish way, human community is not possible. Selfishness does not build community. I don't care how you cut it. It doesn't do it. Yeah. It destroys community. And it applies to a marriage and a relationship, because if you're in a relationship and if you and I are in a relationship and it's all about either one of us, then it's not going to be about the two of us. You see what I'm getting at? So that on some level, I've got to be concerned with not just myself, but with you. And if you do that, are concerned not just with yourself, but with me, if we do that, then something new begins to emerge. That relationship between the two of us in giving ourselves to each other creates a new actual reality. That's what we're getting at in marriages. It ain't about a license. It's not about, It is about a new relationship that's actually creating. We use words like family, or we don't have a lot of good words, but something new is created where there is space for two to dwell in one relationship. That's powerful stuff. Now, if you apply, then that's in romantic love. Mm-hmm. And what has happened there is what begins as eros over time, if it's real, grows into agape.
Interesting, in a relationship.
Yeah, in a relationship. And I've seen it, I was a pastor, a parish pastor, for years before I became a bishop, and which is a slightly different job in terms of what you do day to day. But I walked with a lot of folk through a lot of sickness and a lot of hardship and a lot of death. And I got to tell you, man, when I've seen couples, people who have been married for, 50 years, these folk, and one of them goes on to glory, it is like the other one has lost part of their body. Mm-hmm. And that's because they've moved beyond just mere romantic attraction, which has its place. That's how the human species, perpetuates. If there was no such thing as romantic attraction, I don't think we would be perpetuating ourselves
That's
just
right.
out of will. So, the Lord knew what he was doing with the biology. So that part's there. But there's a point at which you grow on top of that. You build on that, and a relationship emerges. And it's a pretty awesome thing to behold when you see it. And that's where you have a self-giving love that's not about the obliteration of the self. It's actually a heightening of the self. The truth is, when I'm concerned about we, that includes me. But if all I'm concerned about me, that does not include you necessarily. That we embraces me and you. Me is just all about me, and that doesn't create a relationship.
One of the benefits of having had your own parish for so long is you see codependent relationships. You see every kind of bad relationship when you're working with people, right? Yeah. How do people know when they've taken the sacrificial aspect of agape love and gone too far and become codependent? It seems like that's a real common problem these days.
It is, and that's a human. Because it's just so easy to kind of slop into it. The question is, and I believe this is true with any relationship, including a relationship with God. Is it loving? Is it liberating? Is it life-giving? If it's missing one of those things, then something could be out of kilter. Is it loving? Does it set you free to be, so to speak? I mean, is it liberating? Is it life-giving? Does it make you better, or at least somehow? You see what I'm saying? Is it loving?
That's a great checklist. I mean, if your relationship is working, you get those. If it's not, you need to work on the relationship some more.
You need to work on those, right?
And that's some wisdom right there.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah. And that's true of a relationship with God. If a faith relationship isn't loving, liberating, and life-giving, then you got to work on that, because there's some things missing. I mean, that's how religion can go off and go wrong.
You get that God-fearing idea, because if you're fearful of God and God is love, that might not be liberating in a certain way, right?
Yeah. And the irony, this is another classic example where our language, English, all we have is the word fear. Even in the Hebrew, there's nuance on that word. It actually means respect. I mean, there's a new article you add on it, and it means fear, because I'm scared you're going to kill me. But there's another way. It's fear that is honor. I honor you. I respect you. You see what I mean? And
what a difference. God respecting, no one rejects that, but God fearing, a lot of people are like, I don't really want that. So there's a mistranslation, basically.
Yeah. English is wonderful in Shakespeare's hands, but in common everyday language, it's pretty basic.